My name is Daniel. I was studying engineering before I started working this warehouse job. I work the night shift now, but my life wasn't always like this. I used to go to school. I like school. I like learning how things worked. Machines, buildings, systems. Made sense for me. If something broke, you could take it apart, figure out why, and fix it. That was comforting. I always liked knowing there was a solution if you just kept looking. I had to leave school during my third year, not because I wanted to, but because life got expensive. My dad got sick. He was in and out of the hospital for months. The treatments were long and cost a lot. Insurance helped, but not enough. We had to cover the rest, and that meant bills, more than we were ready for. My mom worked extra shifts, and I picked up part-time jobs. Eventually, my dad got better. He's doing all right now. He's tired a lot and can't go back to his old job, but he's home. He gardens sometimes. My mom still works too hard, but she doesn't complain. We're lucky, and I know that. Still, by the time things settled down, I was in too deep. The loans from school and the medical bills had piled up. I tried going to class, but I couldn't afford it. The interest alone was more than I could keep up with. I had to choose. Keep studying or start paying. So I started paying. And that's how I ended up here at this warehouse. It's one of the old Amazon fulfillment centers, the kind they don't use much anymore. Most of the shipping's automated these days, but places like this still need hands. People to scan and stack, keep the place running. It's out past the highway, little hard to find unless you know where to look. Half the lights don't work, and the place hums all the time, but it pays steady. They offer a deal. If you live on site, they cover rent and food. Means long shifts, usually 20 hours with short breaks, but no commute, no rent, no extra expenses. That part actually helps. I live in a small unit above the warehouse floor. It's got a bed, a kitchenette, and a tiny, tiny bathroom. It's not much, but it's mine and it's quiet. I don't go out much. Most of the time I'm working or resting. It's not forever, just until I've paid off enough to start again. Maybe I'll go back to school someday. I don't know, maybe I won't. I don't think too far ahead. For now, I've got a plan and I am sticking to it. Then there's my cat Milo. The first night I met Milo, I thought he was a box. He was curled up under my cot, half covered in packing paper, and didn't move when I came in. Just one eye staring back at me in the dark. I almost stepped on him. I thought maybe he was sick or injured, but when I reached down, he growled like he'd been offended. Then he just turned his back on me and went to sleep like he lived here. No collar, no tags, grease on his fur like he'd rolled under a forklift. One eye missing, just a scar where it should be. I tried to carry him out the next day, but he bit my glove and refused to let go. And after that, I gave up, and he stayed. I named him Milo. He doesn't seem to care either way. He's not a regular cat. He doesn't act like a pet. He comes and goes when he wants, shows up around 3 a.m., and disappears again before sunrise. Sometimes he's gone for a day or two, then returns like nothing happened. I don't ask where he's been. He always smells like something different. Burnt rubber, metal shavings, motor oil. Once he smelled like vinegar. I don't even want to know. I made him a little pirate patch for his missing eye. Just a small scrap of cloth with thread. It's stupid, but it kind of suits him. He wears it for a while, then loses it under a rack or in a vent. I make another one when I have time, and he lets me put it on without a fight. I think he likes the attention, even if he pretends not to. He doesn't like loud sounds, though. Hates the scanners. When the forklift beeps, he hides under the shelves. But when I'm sitting still, During breaks or when I'm logging inventory, he comes over and curls up near my foot like a weird little coworker. It's nice having someone around, even if he sheds on my uniforms and scratches the walls. Anyway, the warehouse is huge. Used to be a major Amazon fulfillment center years ago, but now they call it a residential logistics facility. That just means a few of us live here while we work. Most people quit fast. I have stayed the longest. The building's on the edge of a shut-down highway near the edge of town. It's out of the way. No traffic, no sidewalks, just trucks every couple of days dropping off old stock, damaged goods, or unsorted items that never made it out of circulation. I work in the receiving section. I scan packages, unload pallets, sort boxes by type and weight. Some of the stuff looks ancient. Out-of-print books, unopened toys, old batteries that probably don't work. They're not meant to be delivered. This warehouse, it's more like a holding zone, a place where things are forgotten until someone figures out what to do with them. Some packages are so dusty the labels are unreadable. Those go into deep storage, which is just code for pushing them further back down the aisle. The place is cold most of the time. Half the heaters barely work. Some lights never turn off. The floor is made of poured concrete and chews through your boots fast. The machines run quiet, but they're always moving. Belts, lifts, sorting arms. You get used to the motion. You start to recognize each beep and click. You know when something's wrong before it happens. I live on the mezzanine level. The apartment's small, barely enough room to stand in two directions at once. One wall has a cot bolted to it. Next to it is a sink and a hot plate. The bathroom's in a closet behind a sliding door. I keep everything clean, mostly to stay sane. Milo lives here too. Didn't ask him to, but I'm glad he does. Most days I don't say much, but he doesn't seem to need words. He just shows up when he feels like it and leaves when he's done. And that's kind of how life works here. Most days follow the same pattern. Work, sleep, repeat. But not everything in this place fits into a clean routine. There are parts of the warehouse that don't make sense. Rules no one explains. Noises no one reports. And moments you're better off not asking about. I have seen things here that don't belong in any manual. I've got a few stories. None of them feel real until you're living them. Story 1. So when I first got here, I thought it'd be simple. I like simple. My debt was a math problem. Numbers going in, numbers going out. The warehouse gave me a way to solve that. No customers, no co-workers, except the ones you barely saw in passing. No uniforms, just a barcode badge and steel-toed boots. All I had to do was show up, follow instructions, and keep moving. There's a rhythm to it. Scan the label, lift the box, move it to the right bin. Repeat. Over time, it becomes automatic. Some people say it gets boring, and yes, it does, but overall I think it's kind of peaceful. Leaves room to think. On breaks, I read. There are old books hidden all over the warehouse, left behind in crates or forgotten on top of dusty shelves. Sometimes they're stuffed into return boxes, like someone tried to ship out their whole bookshelf and forgot about it. I found a torn-up copy of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Frankenstein, even a worn copy of Dracula with a coffee ring on the counter. I keep a little pile of mine near my cot. It's kind of like finding treasure. But the first story I remember from here, really remember, was my first day. I showed up at the loading dock around 7 in the morning. Nobody greeted me. The lights were on, and the conveyor belts were humming, but it felt empty. After a while, a man in a yellow vest showed up with a clipboard. He didn't introduce himself, just handed me a plastic badge with my name on it and a laminated rule sheet titled Safety Protocols for After-Hours Employees. There were 12 rules. The first few made sense. Wear your harness when operating lifts. Don't touch exposed wires. Yeah, no kidding. Report spills immediately. But the rest were strange. Do not acknowledge movement in aisle 47 after 2 a.m. If the red light above the freezer turns green, leave immediately. Ignore all pages that end in 0. If something knocks, do not knock back. I thought it was a joke. Or maybe old warehouse superstition, I don't know. Some workers make up rules to scare the new guy. I laughed and asked if there was a second page. The man didn't laugh back. He just told me to sign the back and keep a copy on me at all times. Then he walked off. He trained me for about 3 days. Mostly just showed me how to clock in, scan boxes, and not get crushed by the lifts. He didn't talk much. Seemed tired all the time. Like someone who'd seen too much and decided to care a little less each day. On the 4th day, he didn't show up. I got a message later from the office saying he'd quit. Found a better position at a facility in Phoenix, apparently. And I was offered his quarters upstairs. I took them. Meant I didn't have to sleep on the floor near receiving anymore. The locker in the room still had his stuff inside. A clean duffel bag, some work pants, a pack of gum, a toothbrush, and a travel case. It all looked like it'd been packed to go, but then never picked up. Thought maybe he forgot it. There was a note in one of the pants pockets, folded, plain paper. No name, no date. Just 3 words written in blue ink. Don't feed it. I didn't know what that meant. Figured it was another joke. Something left over from the same person who wrote the weird safety rules. That night, Milo started riding on my shoulder. He'd never done it before. He usually walked on his own, slow and careful, stopping every few steps to sniff or scratch. But that evening, right after my shift, I leaned down to grab my bag, and he jumped up without warning. Just landed there like it was normal. He dug his claws in gently and settled behind my neck like a scarf. I tried to shrug him off. He refused to move, and I gave up. So there I was, tired, sore, badge still clipped to my shirt, walking back through the warehouse with a one-eyed cat perched on my shoulders and a note in my pocket telling me not to feed something. On the way back, I passed aisle 47. I hadn't noticed it before. It was one of the longer aisles, deep in the rear zone near deep storage. The shelves there are older. Some don't have labels. Some lean sideways, like the bolts gave out years ago. There's a stretch of it where the lights flicker in and out. Maintenance says it's a wiring issue, but they've never fixed it. It was only 9:30 p.m., so I wasn't worried. The weird rule didn't apply until after 2 a.m., according to the sheet. Still, I kept my pace steady and didn't look too long down the aisle. I didn't want to make it a thing. Milo tensed a little on my shoulder when we passed it. Ears back, tail twitching, but he didn't growl or leap down. He just stared. Back in my quarters, I reread the rule sheet. I still have it, actually. It's taped to the inside of my locker now. Sometimes, I look at it just to remember I didn't imagine any of this. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of anything that happened. Nothing did. But because I just couldn't stop thinking about that note. Don't feed it. It didn't say what it was. It didn't say what happened if you did. Just those 3 words. No details, no warning, no signature. Like whoever wrote it assumed I'd already know. I didn't know then, but I figured it out later that week. I met Bill. Well, met is maybe the wrong word. I didn't shake his hand or anything. I just saw him. Or it. I call it Bill now, but I don't know what it really is. It's not a person. Not in the way you and I are people. The first time I saw him, it was near receiving. Around 3 a.m. The lights flicker there sometimes, especially on the south end where the ceiling panels are cracked. I was restocking bins, mostly returns. Boxes marked unsorted. They go in a cart, get scanned, and wait for someone higher up to figure out what to do with them. I just dropped off a crate of old electronics when I noticed movement in the next aisle over. Not just a little movement either. Something big. I thought maybe it was one of the other workers. We don't usually talk much, but people pass through now and then. This figure, though, he was tall, slouched, broad shoulders, but the shape wasn't right. His arms were too long. His head tilted too far forward, like it was too heavy for his neck. He was dragging something behind him. Looked heavy, like a wet sack that left a trail. Thought it might be trash. Sometimes broken returns get tossed out in bulk. But then I heard the scraping. Slow, thick, uneven. Not plastic or cardboard. It sounded like something soft being pulled across concrete. I called out? I don't know why. Just instinct, maybe. I said, "Hey, you good over there?" The shape stopped. Just froze in place. And then, slowly, it turned its head toward me. And that's when the smell hit. It was sharp and sour, like copper and old oil. Something else mixed in. Rotting meat, maybe. It was so strong I nearly gagged. Milo leapt off my shoulder and took off in the other direction, tail down, not making a sound. The figure stepped back into the shadows between shelves and disappeared. I stood there for a while, not moving, not speaking, until I finally convinced myself I'd imagined most of it. Maybe it was a forklift running without lights, I don't know. Maybe I was just tired. And I kept telling myself that. The next day I asked around. One of the other night guys just shrugged and said the place makes weird sounds. Yeah, it makes weird sounds. You get used to it. Don't go wandering around, he'd said. That was all. So I kept quiet. But I started paying attention. A week later, I found out what Bill eats. It was in section H7, a zone that handles bulk items. I was doing inventory when I found a small crate shoved behind a stack of microwaves. Wasn't labeled, which was already a problem. I opened it to tag it properly, and there it was, a severed monkey hand. Just the hand, cleanly removed, still soft, still warm somehow. I called it in as biohazard waste and filed the report, just like the manual says. But no one ever came to collect it. I checked the logs later. The crate wasn't listed in the system. As far as the records were concerned, it didn't exist. After that, I started calling the thing Bill. It helped somehow. For my own sense of sanity, I guess. The second time I saw Bill, it was worse. I was logging returns on my tablet when I felt like something was off. Milo had stopped walking. He was staring straight ahead, ears flat, tail puffed out. I followed his gaze and saw it. Bill, standing perfectly still between the racks. His head was tilted again, too far to one side. His arms hung loosely at his sides. I couldn't see his face clearly, but the shape was wrong. Like someone had stretched a human face over something that did not fit. The skin didn't line up with the features. No real eyes, just dark spots where eyes should be. I didn't say anything. I didn't move. Milo growled low in his throat and then turned and bolted again. When I looked back, Bill was gone. That night, I dug into the warehouse system on my laptop. We're not really supposed to use it for personal research, but I was curious. I searched employee logs, check-in times, departure records. I noticed something strange. Almost every after-hours worker had a short record. None lasted longer than 3 months. Some files ended suddenly. No exit interviews, no transfer logs. Just a line of code marking their last scan in, and then nothing. Even the guy who trained me, his name was buried under a number tag. No forwarding address, just a blank ending. And that's when I started to worry a little bit. This place wasn't just weird, it was more than that. The manual had a section buried in the back. It's not printed like the others. Just a scanned page added later. It says, if employee is exposed to redacted, advise continued operation and monitoring. Containment optional. Protocol priority. Uninterrupted function. There was no context, no explanation. I read it twice, then again. Didn't change. I didn't tell anyone. I sat on my cot later that night with Milo curled up beside me. I scratched him behind the ears, even though he'd left me. He purred like always, calm and warm. I looked at him and said, "And we're not getting out of here for a while, huh, buddy?" He just kept purring. There's a red door in the back corridor, past Section D. I walk by it sometimes during my night shifts, usually around 3 a.m. It's tucked behind a row of broken vending machines and a stack of crates nobody's touched in months. Most people don't even go back there. The hallway is narrow and dim, with no cameras and no working lights overhead. The motion sensors don't respond. I've checked. The door doesn't have a label. No scanner, no company logo. Just smooth red paint. The kind of red that's weird. Too bright, in a place where everything else is beige or gray. It has a metal handle. No lock, though. It's never locked. Management said it was old storage. Sealed off for safety reasons, they told me. Something about unstable shelving or loose wiring inside. Nothing worth clearing out. Nothing I needed to worry about. Just log your time and stick to your zones, they said. But every night, almost exactly at 3:17 a.m., Bill stands in front of it. Always the same. Same spot, same posture, facing the door, not moving. Sometimes I see him as I turn the corner. Scares the hell out of me. He's already there. Other times, I see him walking down the hall toward it, dragging something I can't quite make out. He never opens the door. He just stands there. One night, I passed through a few minutes later than usual. Bill was still there. As I got closer, I heard something I hadn't heard before. Knocking. Not loud, just soft, rhythmic knocks. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2. Like someone was on the other side. The sound didn't echo like it should have. It sounded close, like it was coming from inside the middle. I stopped walking. Milo stiffened on my shoulder. And then the knocking stopped. Later, when I asked the warehouse system about the red door, nothing came up. No blueprint data. No room ID. I ran a search on storage clearance zones and found nothing matching the area. It wasn't listed as active or inactive. It wasn't listed at all. And that's when I remembered something my dad used to say. When I was little, he'd tell me scary stories before bed. Not the nice kind with lessons, just strange ones. About forests with no paths, and things that lived in abandoned attics. His favorite was a line he repeated every time the story got too quiet. Stay away from the red things. Red's the only color monsters can see. That's why they like blood, he used to say. Kinda dark, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I always thought he was joking. Now I'm not so sure. One night, about 2 months into working here, I found the door open slightly. Just an inch. Barely noticed. I hadn't seen Bill yet that shift. Milo and I had just finished sorting a double load of small electronics. I was walking my usual loop, checking barcodes and updating inventory. When I reached the corridor, I saw it. The door opened just a crack. There was light coming from inside. Not the kind of light you'd expect. Wasn't white or yellow. It was red. A deep, steady red. Like the glow inside an oven, I thought. It didn't flicker or shift. It just stayed right there, bright and heavy. I stopped walking. Milo climbed down off my shoulders. He walked up to the door, slowly, then stopped 2 feet away. His little ears went back. His tail lowered. He stared at that gap in the door like it was alive. I looked at him. Should I check it out? I asked. Milo didn't move. He just kept staring. I took a step forward. He turned to me and made a short, low sound, like a warning. He looked upset. I stared at the door, at the light, at the sliver of space between the frame and the door where I could almost see the edge of something inside. I looked down at Milo again. He wasn't moving. Yeah, good idea. Maybe don't go into the creepy red room, I said. I reached out and pulled the door closed. It clicked shut without any resistance, and the light disappeared. I stood there for a moment, hand on the handle, waiting to see if anything would happen. Milo brushed against my leg and walked away as if to say, let's go. And I followed. I haven't opened the door since then. It's still unlocked. I check sometimes just to see. It never changes. No matter what time of day, no matter what I'm doing, the red door is always there. Unmarked, undocumented, waiting. And most nights, Bill still visits it. I don't know what's behind it. I don't think I want to know. Then, there was the first time I had to get something from the basement. The order came in just after midnight. I was logging returns on the main floor when a red notification popped up on my tablet. Retrieve Unit 84A. Sub-level storage. No other info. Just the item number, location, and an urgent flag next to it. I'd never been in the basement before. Only authorized personnel were supposed to access that level. That's what the manual said. But when I scanned my keycard at the stairwell door, it unlocked with a beep like any other zone. I waited a second before going down. Milo wasn't with me that night. He'd wandered off a few hours earlier and hadn't come back yet. I usually try not to work in unfamiliar areas without him. But I figured it'd be a quick grab. In and out, right? The stairs creaked as I went down. There were no lights at first, just a narrow beam from my flashlight and the dim green arrows painted on the concrete walls. The deeper I went, the colder it got. Not normal cold, basement cold. The kind that feels like it's been sitting there for years untouched. Sub-level storage was quiet. The air was thick with dust. I could smell rust and something else, like salt. The walls were lined with heavy shelves, stacked with unmarked crates, old machines, broken vending parts, and boxes with no barcodes. I followed the map on my tablet until I found the row marked 84. Then I followed the numbers up until I reached 84A. And that's when I saw him. Bill. He was standing in front of the shelf, same as always. Slouched, long-armed, way too tall. But this time he wasn't still. He was chewing. At first I couldn't tell what it was. I thought maybe an old mop or a piece of rubber tubing. But then I saw the shape. The curve of a rib. The bend of an arm. The meat was red and soft, and clearly not food. Whatever it had been, animal, person, it wasn't anymore. Bill's face was covered in something dark. His jaw moved slowly, like it wasn't used to the motion. His eyes caught the light from my flashlight. They didn't look human. They reflected like an animal's eyes do in the dark. I didn't breathe. I just crouched down behind a crate and waited. The crate I needed, Unit 84A, was sitting right there, just behind him on the second shelf. A small gray box sealed with 2 plastic straps. I looked around and saw a small bolt on the floor near my foot. Looked like it'd fallen off a shelf bracket. I picked it up and waited. Then I threw it. I aimed for the far side of the aisle, behind a pile of broken office chairs. The bolt hit metal and made a sharp clang. The sound echoed through the basement like a fire alarm. Bill stopped chewing. He turned slowly toward the sound, his body moving in pieces. First his head, then his torso, and then his legs, like a puppet remembering which way to walk. He started to move. At first he was slow, but then he sped up. Jerky, unsteady steps that grew faster as he picked up speed. I stayed real low and didn't look back. I grabbed the box, hugged it tight to my chest, and moved the opposite way down the aisle. I reached the stairs without looking behind me, and the door at the top was still open. I climbed 2 steps at a time. By the time I made it back to my apartment, I was shaking. I put the box on the counter and locked the door behind me. I didn't open it. I still haven't opened it. There's no record of what was inside. I don't want to know. Later that week, I checked the warehouse map again. Sub-level storage wasn't just 1 floor. According to the old plans, There are 3 more levels below that one. No access routes listed. No descriptions. Just blank gray squares with faint outlines of staircases that don't appear on any current layout. I don't like basements anymore, and I do not want to know what's down there. Well, that's all the stories I have, for now anyway. I didn't really set out to keep track of them. At first I just worked, slept, fed Milo, and kept my head down. But the weird stuff started stacking up, and I figured it was worth writing down. Not because anyone asked, but because somebody probably should. This place doesn't come with warning signs that make sense. Just laminated sheets and vague rules that nobody ever really explains. You learn fast or you disappear. That's just how it is. I've been here just under 8 months now. They pay well enough I've managed to pay off a chunk of that debt. I keep a little chart on my wall with how much I've got left. I cross off another chunk every 2 weeks, and it feels good seeing those numbers go down. If everything goes according to plan, I've got 4 more months before I can leave. I think I'm going to go back to school. I already started looking at programs. I'm thinking structural engineering again. Maybe something with design this time, something practical, but I don't know, creative. I don't know. I just want to work on something that doesn't breathe heavy in the dark or knock from the wrong side of the wall. And yes, don't worry, I'm taking Milo with me. He's not much for conversation, but he's reliable. The little one-eyed cat still sleeps by the door, still disappears for hours, and comes back smelling like power tools. He has a little box now, a blanket, and about 5 identical pirate eye patches that I keep sewing because he keeps losing them. I think he knows when I'm stressed. He sits on my laptop when I stay up too late reading logs. Sometimes he curls up on my chest until I shut it off. He's coming with me when I go. That's not even a question. Until then, I keep doing my job. I keep my eyes open. I stay away from aisle 47 after 2 a.m. I don't respond to paging numbers that end in 0. I make sure my key card still works every day, just in case the door decides to stop letting me out. There are still things I don't understand about this place, lots of them, like what's really behind that red door, or how many other bills are wandering around the deeper levels. But I don't need every answer. Some things are better left closed. Anyway, if you ever find yourself working in a place like this, somewhere quiet, underlit, just past the edge of town, remember a few things. Stay away from red doors. Stay out of basements, especially ones that weren't in the original building plans. Don't go near Section D unless you absolutely have to. And most importantly, don't feed Bill.